This is the end of December 2020. It'll be almost the new year is upon us, and I thought I'd start a new series on one of my favorite chapters of the Bible, which is Colossians chapter 1. It's one of my favorites because it focuses on Christ. It is considered one of the greatest Christological passages in the New Testament. Okay? Christological, it pertains to Christ. And I think with the new year coming and with everything that's happening, it's not been a very good year for the world in 2020. We need to refocus on Christ and perhaps retune or tweak our attitude about what our faith actually means to us. So I'm going to read just verse 1 today. It goes like this. Paul, an apostle of Christ Jesus by the will of God, and Timothy, our brother. I'm going to read that first part again, very short. Paul, an apostle of Christ Jesus by the will of God. Now, oftentimes you read something like this and you say, well, this is the way how Paul always begins his letters. It's formality. But there's very deep insight upon these words, even if it is the initial greetings that Paul generally gives in these epistles. First, he identifies himself as Paul. What's very interesting, that's not his original name. His original name is Saul. This is really very insightful because never would Paul go back to that. You see, because Christ gave him not only a new beginning, brought him near to God, it gave Paul a new identity about himself and how he would be portrayed to other people. Saul was the old man. Paul is the new person. And I think that's something that we as believers must always remember. Oftentimes we come to faith and the old Jeff, it's the same thing. We're saved by grace, so, the old Jeff still continues. You know what we need to do? Let God change our name, change our identity. And I'm talking about a literal name. I'm not going to change my name. But how you see yourself and how others see you. That'd be a great goal for 2021. Second, Paul describes himself an apostle of Jesus Christ. Now, prior to him writing the letters, prior to his conversion, he was a Pharisee of Pharisees, a very religious Jewish participant in the Old Testament faith. But now, as a follower of Jesus Christ, he is now given not only a new identity, he is given a new opportunity to serve giftedness. He is now an apostle, one of the founding leaders of the New Testament church. God not only changes his identity, he changes his responsibility. He now sees his giftedness from God as the greater definition of what he is to do in his life. Now, you thought that seeing our name change or having a new identity and having people identify differently as Christians is a big thing. Now imagine this, seeing that in all that you do, whether you are a father like I am, a husband like I am, a pastor like I am, but now see it in light of a greater overlay of what we are to be and what we are to do. And that is through our giftedness to help encourage other believers to grow. What is your giftedness? What is your service? We're not saying to leave everything you do and to leave all the relationships you have, but to put them under the giftedness and grace of Jesus Christ, so that what God has given to you, you do it with great fervor and great zeal. The third thing, he says, according to the will of God. Now, according to the will of God is really a loaded phrase. It could mean God's desire. Paul would write, he desires all men to be saved. It could be you submitting to a difficult plan of God. Thy will be done, Jesus would say. It could be whatever happens. But in this context, I think Paul is talking about situations in his life where he begins to see that God is working in circumstances in his life for a good purpose to transform him. Because, you really can't understand this will of God thing for Paul unless you read and understand Acts chapter 9, his conversion. God miraculously, supernaturally breaks through in his life and changes his whole perspective. That now the supernatural God and this gracious God will work in his life to bring change. And it will be no longer about himself, because prior to his conversion, his religion was all about me, do, earn the righteousness of God. No more. It is now according to the will of God, not that God strong arms you, makes you do things you hate to do, but you begin to see that the things of life really remind you that things in this world, the more important things in this world, are more out of your control than you think. And you need a game-changing perspective of God. Imagine this for 2021. You have a new identity, a new name. People see you differently. You have a new responsibility in serving God through the giftedness. And you love doing it because you have a new purpose on top of all the other responsibilities you have in life. And third, you have a new perspective on how God works in your life. Things do not occur by accident anymore. And things occur for the grace of God, for you to see it, for you to know it, and for you to proclaim it.